Decoded.
Welcome back to Book Decoded. Are you ready to get a little sweaty today?
Oh, absolutely. Always up for a little perspiration exploration.
Perfect, because we are diving into The Joy of Sweat by Sarah Everts.
You know, that title alone kind of makes you rethink your relationship with sweat, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not usually something we associate with joy, but Everts makes a compelling case. Did you know that if every single human piled into a giant sauna,
Oh, this is going to be good.
we would produce enough sweat to rival the flow rate of Niagara Falls?
Okay, that is both disgusting and amazing.
Right. It puts things in perspective, huh?
It really does. So Everts, she's not just talking about the yuck factor, though, right?
Not at all. She goes deep. The science, the history, even the future of sweat.
Sign me up. I'm ready to get my learn on.
Okay, so let's start with, I guess, the most basic question.
Yeah.
Why do we even sweat? We all know it cools us down, but how?
Right. Well, humans, we rely on sweat for cooling more than almost any other animal on the planet.
And there's a reason for that. It all goes back to our evolution.
Exactly. Think back to our ancestors, transitioning from those furry primates to us.
Trading in that fur coat for, well, bare skin.
Had to find a new way to regulate body temperature and sweating. Boom. There it was.
Essential to survival, especially as we moved into hotter and hotter environments.
It's pretty ingenious when you think about it, just simple evaporation doing its thing.
So break it down for me. How does evaporation actually cool us down?
Okay, so when sweat evaporates off your skin, right, it takes heat energy with it.
Ah, so it's like a natural air conditioner.
Pretty much. One that we often try to shut off with all our deodorants and antiperspirants.
And that brings us to one of the things that really struck me in this book. The whole idea that sweat is gross is so deeply ingrained in our culture.
It is strange, isn't it? We spend billions of dollars trying to hide something that's crucial to our survival.
Everts really makes you think, is this aversion to sweat biological? Or is it all just, a cultural construct?
Right, because other cultures view it so differently.
Totally. Now, here's where things get really interesting for me. The science of stink.
Okay, so we've all experienced it, but do we know why? Here's the truth. Sweat itself doesn't actually smell.
Wait, really?
It's the bacteria that live on our skin. They're feasting on the sweat.
And they produce those lovely body odor compounds we all know and love.
Exactly. And get this, there was this scientist named George Pretty.
Okay.
This guy spent his whole career sniffing individual components of sweat, trying to figure out the top note of human odor.
That is dedication to your craft.
No kidding. And his research, fascinating. Turns out the main culprit behind that classic human scent is a blend of fatty acids.
Huh. So we're basically talking fatty acid factories.
But here's the truly mind-blowing part. Dogs, they can actually identify individuals by their unique sweat profile.
You're telling me even if I have an identical twin, my sweat can give me away?
Even identical twins. Think about that next time you leave your gym clothes lying around.
Oh, man. Point taken. Okay, ready for something even more interesting. Let's talk about the smell of fear.
Ooh, primal instincts kicking in. I'm ready.
So Everts talks about how our bodies, when we're anxious or scared, they release different chemicals in our sweat.
And there's this brilliant scientist, Pamela Dalton, who's trying to isolate those specific fear molecules.
Now, why would she want to do that?
Well, her research has actually grabbed the attention of the military.
Hold on. The military?
Yes, they're exploring if these scents could be used in combat.
That's a little unsettling.
Yeah, it raises a lot of ethical questions. But beyond that, her work is helping us understand the subtle ways we communicate through scent.
Without even knowing it.
Exactly. It's like a hidden language we're just beginning to decipher. So much more to learn.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So we've covered sweat's cooling power, the stigma around it, the science of stink, even the smell of fear. What else is there?
Well, we can't forget about the big question, sweat and attraction. Do human pheromones actually exist?
Ooh, yeah. Do those love potion scents advertised everywhere have any real science behind them?
It's a hot debate, but Everts brings up some interesting points. Remember those MHC genes?
The ones linked to our immune system.
Yes. Turns out they might influence who we find attractive through scent.
So you're saying my sweat might be broadcasting signals that make me more or less appealing?
Possibly. Some studies suggest we're subconsciously attracted to people with different MHC genes than our own.
Nature's way of ensuring stronger immunity in offspring, maybe?
It's a theory. And then you've got those smell dating
Where
events,
people sniff T-shirts.
worn by potential partners. A little unorthodox, but hey, it cuts to the
I
chase.
can only imagine those first dates. Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Sweat and history. The book mentions ancient civilizations were really into perfumes.
Oh, absolutely. They use them extensively, not just to mask body odor, but for religious reasons, social rituals, even as currency.
Like, imagine perfume being as essential as clothing.
Totally. But what I find fascinating is how obsessed we are now with deodorants and antiperspirants.
It's a pretty recent phenomenon, right? It really took off in the 20th century.
And the book traces how marketing and advertising played a huge role in shaping those perceptions.
So we've basically been conditioned to view sweat as something negative, something to be ashamed of.
Exactly. We went from embracing fragrances to wanting to eliminate our natural scent completely.
It makes you think, what if we lost in that shift?
Definitely something to ponder. But on a brighter note, Everts explores the future of sweat, its potential as a diagnostic tool.
Wait, hold up. My sweat can tell us something about my health.
Oh, yeah. Researchers are developing wearable tech that analyzes your sweat in real time.
So we're talking hydration levels, glucose, electrolytes, all that.
All that and more. It's like sweat is a window into our overall health.
But this sounds straight out of science fiction.
It's closer to reality than you think. Imagine a simple sweat test could give you a complete picture of your health. Early detection, personalized treatment, it's all there.
That would be revolutionary, especially for those with chronic conditions.
Absolutely. Of course there are challenges. Accuracy, comfort, data privacy, all things to consider.
Yeah, for sure. But it's mind-blowing to think something as simple as sweat could unlock so much about our health.
Truly amazing. It just shows how incredible and complex our bodies are. There's always more to discover.
Like, did you know that we're constantly sweating, even when we don't feel it?
Oh, it's true. It's called, what is it, insensible perspiration?
Insensible perspiration.
Yeah. It's basically like this continuous, almost invisible stream of water vapor just floating off of us.
So, like, even when I'm just vegging out on the couch, I'm technically sweating.
Technically, yeah. Our internal thermostats, they're always making tiny adjustments, even when we're not really aware of it.
Huh. Never thought about it that way. The book also talks about how different cultures view and experience sweat. I was really intrigued by the contrast between German and Finnish sauna etiquette.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic example. You've got something as universal as sweat, but it can be interpreted in such different ways. Like in Germany, saunas are all about quiet contemplation, relaxation.
So no chatting allowed.
Pretty much. Talking is frowned upon, and the atmosphere is super serene, very focused on individual relaxation.
But in Finland, it's the opposite, right?
Total opposite. Finnish saunas are super social. People gather to chat, laugh, even sing. It's all about community and bonding through sweating together.
It's amazing how one thing, sweat, can have such different meanings and customs surrounding it.
It really shows you that there's no one right way to experience sweat. It all comes down to your background, your culture, and your personal preferences.
Absolutely. That diversity of perspectives is part of what makes sweat such a fascinating and multi-layered topic. Okay, now let's talk about the flip side of things, people who don't sweat at all. The book mentions a guy called the Battery Man, a Serbian man born without sweat glands. What's his story?
Oh, that's a remarkable case. He has this condition called anhidrosis, and it makes him super resistant to electricity.
Resistant to electricity? How is that even possible?
Basically, he can channel electric currents through his body without getting hurt. He's even cooked sausages using only his bare hands and the power of electricity.
Hold on. He cooks sausages using his bare hands and electricity.
It's true. It sounds crazy, right? But it also highlights how important sweat is, not just for temperature regulation, but for our body's electrical conductivity, too.
So sweat acts like a conductor.
Exactly. It allows electricity to flow more easily through us. Without it, we'd be way more vulnerable to electric shocks.
So in a way, the Battery Man's condition is both a superpower and a potential danger.
That's a good way to put it. It's a reminder that even the simplest bodily functions can have these huge implications for our health and well-being.
Totally. And it brings us back to that core idea. Sweat is more than just something gross or annoying. It's a vital part of what makes us human.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, I think it's time to move on to the final part of our episode, where we'll delve into some of the more extreme and unusual aspects of sweat, everything from space sweat to competitive sauna rituals. Everts. She kicks things off with astronaut Eugene Cernan.
Okay, I know astronauts, they train hard, but how sweaty can you get in space?
Well, during an early spacewalk, he got so unbelievably sweaty that his helmet fogged up.
No way, his helmet fogged up,
Completely. Can you imagine the stress of that?
floating out there in the vastness of space and suddenly you can't see.
Talk about a high-stakes sweat situation. It really shows you, even in those super-controlled environments, our bodies still react in those basic primal ways.
Wow, that's intense.
But, back here on Earth, people are pushing their sweat limits on purpose.
Oh, I bet. Saunas, hot yoga, all that.
Yeah, but have you ever heard of Aufguss?
Aufguss, is that like a German word?
It is. It's this, theatrical sauna experience. Think performance art meets intense heat and steam.
Okay, that sounds interesting. So what happens?
People gather in the sauna, and this trained Aufgussmeister. They use towels to create these elaborate waves of heat and steam, often with music, essential oils, even choreographed movements.
Wait, hold on. Choreographed movements in a sauna?
I know. Everts, she describes these events as wild spectacles, complete with costumes, light shows, sometimes even dry ice.
It's like a sauna rave.
Pretty much. It's amazing how different cultures have incorporated sweating into rituals and even entertainment. So, as we wrap up our deep dive, I want to leave you with this final thought from Everts. She writes, "Sweat connects us to our evolutionary past, our personal health, and even to each other."
That's beautiful. It really captures the essence of what we've been talking about.
So next time you break a sweat, whether you're working out, hitting the sauna, or just, surviving a heat wave,
Take the moment. Appreciate those salty droplets.
they tell a story about who you are, where you've been, and where you're going.
And maybe, just maybe, you'll find a little joy in the sweat too.
Thanks for joining us on this sweaty adventure through the joy of sweat. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into a fascinating book. Until then, stay curious.